and welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha. In the headlines, federal government unveils agric reforms, moves to create 21 million jobs. Enugu government signs MOU to revive moribund agro projects in the state. Trump targets Memphis in law enforcement surge, eyes Chicago next. And suspects in Madeleine McCann case released from German prison, says police. Details in a moment.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Tigiti Agorom, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signature TV.
President Bola Tinubu is back to the country after concluding his annual working vacation in Europe. Tinubu arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, Tuesday night, where he was received by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule, his Chief of Staff Femi Gbajabiamila, and Coordinating Minister of the Economy Wale Edun. The president departed Nigeria on September 4th for France, intending to split his annual holiday between France and the United Kingdom. During his stay in Paris, Tinubu held a private luncheon with French President Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace. Both leaders discussed bilateral cooperation and pledged to strengthen partnerships for mutual prosperity and global stability. The federal government has announced some new incentives to attract investments into agriculture and create 21 million jobs in the country. Vice President Kashim Shettima outlined the plans at the National and Sub-Regional Hand-in-Hand Investment Forum of the Food and Agriculture Organization held in Abuja. The measures, he said, include single-window platforms for land registration, strengthen agricultural credit systems, large-scale mechanization, and strategic irrigation projects. Shettima said Nigeria had the capacity to irrigate more than 3 million hectares of farmland, but currently uses less than 10% of that potential. The vice president, who noted that Nigeria's blueprint under the 2021 to 2025 National Development Plan aims to lift 35 million people out of poverty, specifically observed that irrigation is a game changer, noting that Nigeria has river basins and aquifers capable of irrigating over 3 million hectares, but currently uses less than 10%. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, described Nigeria's market, large arable land, and growing digital economy as unique opportunities for investors. For his part, the Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Food Security of the Gambia, Dr. Demba Sabali, commended the FAO for hosting the event and Nigeria's leadership in agriculture, highlighting the country's success stories in the rice and cassava value chains as worthy of emulation by countries in the sub-region and beyond. Nigeria has been under pressure to cut its reliance on imports and address food insecurity, which worsened after fuel subsidy removal and currency reforms deepened inflation in 2023. The governor of Ebonyi State, Francis Nwifuru, has embarked on annual leave. The Ebonyi State House of Assembly gave effect to a letter transmitting executive powers to the deputy governor, Princess Patricia Obila, in compliance with Section 190, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Meanwhile, the acting governor has highlighted the potential of irrigation to significantly enhance crop yields and contribute to food security in Nigeria and across West Africa. Obila made the remarks at the opening ceremony of the National and Regional Hand-in-Hand Investment Forum on Irrigation, organized by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Abuja. The acting governor commended President Bola Tinubu for his initiative in agriculture, which she said will leverage Nigeria's vast agricultural potential. She said the Ebonyi State government is pursuing initiatives to enhance agricultural productivity, promote irrigation, and support farmers to ensure economic diversification and job creation. The Enugu State government has taken a major step towards revitalizing one of its moribund agricultural assets with the signing of a memorandum of understanding with Shanghai Industrial Farm and Tribu Investments to rehabilitate the Enugu-Shanghai Agro-Industrial Project, which has been abandoned for over 12 years. The Secretary to the State Government, Professor Chidiebere Onya, who led the signing of the MOU on behalf of the state government, said the partnerships aligns with the administration's drive to regenerate dormant assets, empower youths, create jobs, and strengthen food chain development across the state. According to him, the project will cover 10,000 hectares of land with a clear land use framework, ensuring transparency, sustainability, and robust collaboration between the state and the investors.
Today we formalize a partnership that will breathe new life into the Enugu Shanghai Initiative Henneke Integrated Farm. We believe that it is pertinent that we note that this process will transform a moribund asset into a thriving agro-industrialized hub and advance our regenerative development, food security, and inclusive growth in Enugu State.
Founder of Shanghai, Reverend Father Godfrey Nzamujo, expressed delight at returning to Enugu for what he described as a project of tomorrow. He explained that the initiative would harness the state's biological resources for mass agro-industrial production, calling for immediate road construction to allow work to begin without delay.
Talking about the most important thing, and we, all of us here, we are the problem. The mindset that created this moribund will not be the mindset that will revive them. So what Shanghai did, we cleared that mindset. People committed going to be a part of it now. So that's the most important. This project today is what they call the social infrastructure is there. Human beings who understand the problem, who are committed. This new partnership, understand, it took us years to believe. Since 2 years we've been working on it, it's now working. So that's now. Immediately that is now done, we're going to tap the less problematic, which is the physical infrastructure. The roads, all sort of things, we're going on it. But it's going to be easy because it's easy to implement those physical things because we know where we're going. And the government has given us the commitment, the roads, the other infrastructure is going to work. And talking about agriculture.
Chief Executive Officer of Tribu Investment, Nnamdi Ozo, explained the role of Tribu as a financier of the project under the newly established Enugu Tribu Shanghai Farms Limited and the potential of Enugu State to feed itself and move beyond import dependence to export.
I'm in the hospitality industry, so we deal with food all the time. And beyond that, I keep saying that the only thing that keeps exploding here is our population. And we are not catching up with what this population is going to eat in the future, right? And anyone that knows when you go to the market, there are just limited number of things that we can say that we produce here. Every other thing are imported. So it is a shame to us, right? To be importing what we eat. If we cannot feed us.
The Abia State Governor, Alex Oti, says the state government will continue to work with relevant federal government agencies to reduce the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the country. Governor Oti gave the assurance while receiving a delegation of the new Southeast Zonal Director of the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, led by Captain Chris Chris Anusiem, who visited him at his office. He said that almost all crimes were committed with small arms and light weapons, and stressed the need to reduce it, noting that checking the proliferation will help reduce crime to the barest minimum. He thanked the federal government for setting up the center and expressed confidence that the new Director General of the center, Johnson Kukum, would perform well. The Southeast Zonal Director of the center said he was in the state for a familiarization visit, having been newly posted to Enugu to head the Southeast Zonal Office. Anusiem commended Governor Alex Oti for effectively maintaining peace in Abia and explained that the vision of the agency was to promote an illicit arms-free society. The administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete-Ibas, has declared that the state has been successfully stabilized under his stewardship, providing a critical foundation for it to become a leading model of good governance in Nigeria. Ibas made the declaration during a public lecture in Port Harcourt to reflect on Nigeria's democratic journey and the recent experience of Rivers State. Ibas recounted that his administration's core mandate upon assumption of office on March 18, 2025, was to restore peace and stability in the face of severe insecurity, political impasse, and the breakdown of public trust. He noted that with the cooperation of key stakeholders, his administration has successfully conducted peaceful local government elections, reinstating democratic governance at the grassroots levels.
Most significantly, we peacefully conducted the local government council elections, restoring democratic governance to the grassroots, the level of government closest to the people. Emergency rule was never a choice. It was a necessity forced upon us by insecurity, political impasse, and a breakdown of trust. Yet, in hindsight, it offered us enduring lessons. That peace is priceless. Without security, no other aspiration is possible.
In his welcome address, the Secretary to the State Government, Professor Ibibia Lucky, described the event as a defining moment in the state's history, marking the conclusion of 6 months of emergency rule and the transition back to democratic governance. He emphasized the sacred duty of all citizens to nurture institutions that uphold justice, fairness, and accountability. Meanwhile, a Rivers State High Court sitting in Port Harcourt has dismissed a suit seeking to invalidate the August 30, 2025 local government election in Rivers State. The case, filed by Port Harcourt-based lawyer Williams Abayomi, challenged the legality of the appointment of the state administrator, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete-Ibas, who nominated the chairman and members of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission that conducted the election. Justice Stephen Jumbo, in striking out on the grounds of lack of local standing and lack of jurisdiction, noted that the claimant failed to show any personal injury or hardship that would arise from the election, noting that the interest he sought to protect belonged to the state governor and not himself. On the issue of jurisdiction, the judge ruled that the court lacked authority to entertain the matter, citing Section 1, Subsection 1 of the Emergency Powers Act of 1961, which vests such issues solely in the Supreme Court. Speaking to journalists after the ruling, counsel to the plaintiff, Godsent Elewa, said there are grounds upon which his clients will appeal the matter. He maintained that the comments by the judge on the validity of the election were made by the way, insisting that it was unrelated to the subject matter.
Yes, I think there is a window to challenge the ruling. You understand me? Because in as much as I respect the judge so much, I think there are certain aspects of this judgment I don't agree with the judge with. You understand? The judgment today, basically, the judge resolved two issues today. which were on jurisdiction. Firstly, the judge said my client lacked the local standard. That the only person who can institute or challenge the appointment of chairman and members of RISEC, that power lies, the local standing lies only with the governor, executive governor of Rivers State. That was the first issue on local standing my lord decided. Then on substantive jurisdiction, my lord also held that he lacks the substantive jurisdiction by virtue of Section 1, Sub 1 of the Emergency Powers Act of 1961, that every matter pertaining to emergency can only be determined by the Supreme Court by virtue of that act. So these were basically the two decisions my lord gave today on jurisdiction. And after these decisions, in person, statement made by the way, the court then made some statement by the way concerning the election, given the conduct of the 30th of August 2025 election, some constitutional validity and all that. Let it be known that those were just statements made by the way. They were not part of the judgment of this court today.
Counsel to the PDP, Monday Otokwala, applauded the ruling, describing it as a welcome decision that is consistent with the law.
He is neither a party who was to contest for the just held election. He is also not a political party, and so he has no interest whatsoever to have brought this action. Now, the mere fact that maybe he questions, because his whole argument is that the actions of the president tantamount to breaching sections of the Constitution. But from the available laws we have seen, available authorities we have seen, he has shown no sufficient interest. There's no benefit that will accrue to him, in the first place to have brought this action. And then on the other hand, the judge has also said too that by virtue of that emergency act jurisdiction, that the court lacks jurisdiction, substantive jurisdiction to have entertained this matter. So what it means is that it is only the Supreme Court of Nigeria that has the exclusive jurisdiction, and this exclusive jurisdiction is to every other court in Nigeria to entertain this matter. So what that means is that this suit was wrongly filed here in this court, Rivers State High Court. It ought to have been filed at the Supreme Court, where all the contending issues will have been looked at by the Supreme Court. So that's what the court said.
A 6-story building, Afriland Tower on Broad Street, Marina, Lagos Island, housing the United Bank for Africa, went up in flames on Tuesday. The inferno was said to have started from the inverter room, located in the basement of the building, before it spread to other floors. Videos showed flames emitting from the 6-story building, with bank employees seen climbing out of the window on a ladder to escape the inferno. Others were jumping down into the waiting hands of emergency responders and volunteers who were on the ground to give them soft landing. Confirming the incident in a statement on Tuesday, the Deputy Controller of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, Ogabi Olajide, said the emergency call was received at 1:38 p.m., following which the fire crews from the Ebute Elefun and Sari Igamu fire stations responded promptly. He explained that 9 casualties were rescued, while 5 individuals were successfully resuscitated. Up ahead, Speaker Abbas stresses need for transparency in tax administration. Details of these and more after the break.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
The Director General of the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Dr. Joseph Ochogu, has urged immediate and collective action to tackle rising conflicts in Nigeria and globally, warning that delays in peace building are no longer acceptable. Speaking at a press briefing in Abuja to mark the 2025 International Day of Peace and the 25th anniversary of the Institute, Ochogwu said this year's theme, Act Now for a Peaceful World, highlights the urgent need for collaboration at all levels. Ochogwu highlighted the Institute's efforts over the years, training thousands of peace mediators and intervening in conflicts ranging from electoral violence and insurgency. He also emphasized the Institute's research contributions to policy making and urged greater support from government, civil society, traditional rulers, and the media. He called on the media to embrace conflict-sensitive reporting and urged multilateral organizations to remain committed to global cooperation amid growing resistance. The former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, has said that no nation prospers without a fair and transparent tax system. Dogara, who also chairs the National Credit Guarantee Company Limited, made this known at the inaugural parliamentary lecture organized by the House of Representatives Press Corps in Abuja. He described the reforms as a pact between government and citizens, stressing the need for trust and transparency. Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, who was represented by his spokesman, Akin Rotimi, noted that a vibrant and informed media is vital to strengthening democracy.
Taxation lies at the heart of governance and development. No nation can truly prosper without a system of taxation that is robust, equitable, and transparent. For Nigeria, long confronted with the enduring twin challenges of diversifying the economy and addressing widespread poverty, tax reform stands as both a fiscal necessity and a moral imperative.
Special Assistant to the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service on Tax Policy, Olufemi Olarinde, said sensitization campaigns are ongoing to enlighten citizens, stating that the laws will only take effect after an official order from the Minister of Finance is gazetted.
On this tax reform, we are trying to develop instructional materials, information circulars to break it down, even into small pamphlets that makes it as simple as ABC. So we are working on that. Be rest assured that this will be done even before the 1st of January.
Executive Director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, Awal Rafsanjani, backed the reforms but called for transparency, accountability, and fairness.
We support government tax reform because we want our taxation to be more transparent, more accountable, and to also be used for the benefit of Nigerian people. We all know that Nigeria is losing a lot from illicit financial flow as a result of avoidance and refusing to pay tax.
Leaders of the NUJ-FCT Council and the House Press Corps stressed the importance of clear communication, noting that multiple narratives around petroleum tax, data tax, and the use of NIN for banking have fueled public concerns. The new tax framework consolidates 16 statutes into 4 principal acts to simplify administration, expand the tax base, and align Nigeria with international standards. A legal practitioner, George Nnamani, says the ongoing strike by judiciary workers in Enugu State is meant to draw attention to the gross neglect of the state judiciary and revive the third arm of government. Nnamani, who was speaking on the Signature Morning Show, stressed that from a legal standpoint, the strike is both necessary and inevitable, as it is about making the judiciary function better. He explained that even though lawyers are not comfortable with the strike, having been forced to stay at home, he is hopeful that the action will address long-standing challenges that can no longer be addressed individually. The lawyer explained that the funds meant for the welfare and operations are the entitlement of lawyers and judiciary staff, and that the strike is the only way to press home their demands. He lamented the state of the High Court as an example, pointing out that even basic facilities, such as toilet blocks and other social amenities within the courts, are in dire need of renovation and improvement.
For example, now, in the state high courts, the toilet facilities are there, but they're not working.
Oh, wow.
Something as simple as the toilet facility is a problem. We even had to institute an action in court. We've served them the reaction notice. So why would you have toilets and a court that is serving thousands of people every day? Yet, the toilet facilities are not working. So these are the things that we have been seeing that have said, no, this can't continue like this.
Nnamani accused the political class and most governors of deliberately frustrating the full independence and autonomy to the legislative and the judicial arms of government for purely political reasons. He questioned why the autonomy is still being delayed, even after the Supreme Court's pronouncement granting them full autonomy.
Being played. This is a political game being played because most governors don't want that kind of separation to truly happen, whereby the legislature, the judiciary, everybody is on their own for political reasons, because there's this fear they have that they want to be in control. So they've always been in control, so they want to remain, they want that status quo to remain. So it's part of the reason why it's difficult for many states. Some have given, but many are still holding on, trying to suppress those arms of government.
Court activities have been completely grounded in Enugu State since the commencement of the strike, leaving many cases and processes pending. A politician and consultant at the National Assembly, Obiora Obala, has described Anambra State as a land blessed with some of the most outstanding figures in politics, trade, and commerce. Speaking as a guest on the signature morning, Obala expressed concern that despite this rich legacy, the people of Anambra have become distracted in their political choices. He criticized the election of Governor Charles Soludo, saying that many already knew his style of leadership and doubted his ability to deliver meaningful change.
The unfortunate thing is that Anambra people got carried away by the fact that we have a professor, a professor of theory. The most unfortunate thing is that Anambra people voted Governor Charles Soludo, a professor, a theorist. I was in National Assembly, senior aide when he was governor of Central Bank. I don't want to go into that. But the fact is that Anambra people have seen him. The people of Anambra, the positive minds have seen that Soludo had nothing to offer in governance. For 3 years, Soludo was just sleeping. Suddenly, Soludo woke up. He's trying to do roads.
Obala lamented the deteriorating security situation in Anambra State, describing it as alarming and unfortunate. He noted that residents now live in constant fear, unable to move freely, especially at night, for fear of robbery, kidnap, or even death. Nigeria is facing a worsening human rights violation situation. This is official from the National Human Rights Commission. Correspondent Chimezie Nzedimma was at the presentation of Nigeria's latest human rights situation by the Commission in Abuja on Tuesday and now reports.
To the ordinary citizen, unlawful detention, brutality by security operatives, judicial overreach or denial of justice are the major human rights violations in the country. In Abuja on Tuesday, the National Human Rights Commission brought out a dashboard of more extensive and threatening human rights abuses. From mass displacement to mass killings and abductions, Nigerians are being stripped of their humanity. The Commission wants the government and policymakers to move from words to actions and put priority on human life and conditions.
As we engage with these dashboards, I call on all stakeholders, government, private sector, civil society, and citizens to act decisively. Let us commit to the National Action Plan on the promotion and protection of human rights, strengthening early warning systems, strengthening referral systems, scaling digital reporting tools, and fostering multi-sectoral dialogue.
The Executive Secretary of the Human Rights Commission, Dr. Tony Ojukwu, who presented the latest human rights scorecard, said the situation has compromised the economic, social, and cultural rights of those affected. The figures released by Ojukwu presented the serious nature of the situation.
The state of vulnerable population in Nigeria should be of great concern to governments at federal, state, and local levels. Our dashboard on human rights and internal displacements reveal humanitarian crises of immense proportion. Multiple factors such as raging conflicts, banditry, and climate disasters have thrown up internal displacements, impacting on human rights of poor and already traumatized populations. Our engagement with Community Protection Action Group members in projects documented 8,966 displacements between May to July and a cumulative of 53,261 from February to July.
Senior Human Rights Advisor Hilary Ogboma broke down the data further, noting a steady rise in complaints across the Commission's 38 collection points nationwide. North Central topped the chart with over 152,000 complaints, while the Southwest recorded the least. From June to August 2025, complaints rose by 10%, with law enforcement abuses, denial of access to children, spousal abandonment, and gender-based violence among the most reported violations.
What you see are not just mere numbers, as the ES will always say, but these are individuals who continue to face some of the worst forms of human degradation that you can ever imagine. We continue to highlight the importance of the enjoyment of human rights in a democracy. Human rights is what makes democracy. And there is no shortcut to the guarantee of human rights, whether it is human rights, civil liberties, rights and freedoms, as we know in Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
In August alone, the Human Rights Commission investigated 2,603 complaints and recorded over 300 killings and 400 abductions, a nearly 300% increase compared to the previous month. Reports of sexual and gender-based violence also remained high, with 2,981 domestic violence cases and 322 sexual assaults documented. The Commission flagged Benue, Katsina, and Zamfara as hotspots, describing them as killing fields where communities suffer repeated attacks with little effective protection.
For the month of August, we had the Northeast recording the highest number of completed complaints. The top 5 states that have human rights complaints completed in the month of August is Bauchi and our headquarters, as well as Lagos, Kwara, Kano, and Borno. Let me make a last point on completion of complaints. Some or most of the complaints we completed in August may not necessarily mean that we got them in August. They are complaints we have probably from previous months. But we are also now going to probably make some data analysis of which complaints arrive in a given month and is completed in that month.
Despite the alarming statistics, the Commission insists the dashboard is a compass pointing towards hope if government, civil society, and citizens unite to act. In Abuja, I am Chimize Zadima for Signature TV.
The St. Joseph Catholic Church Thinkers Corner was in celebration mood on Monday at an event dominated by children. The occasion, which was the 50th birthday of Reverend Father Emeka Eze, saw the parishioners show their love for the servant of God, while the children showcased their talents through dancing and other performances. Correspondent Christopher Lele captured the celebration mood.
Joy, laugh, and celebration filled the St. Joseph Catholic Church in Thinkers Corner as Reverend Father Emeka Eze marked a major milestone, his 50th birthday. At the heartwarming celebration brought together the priest's loved ones, fellow clergy, and the children who hold a special. The high point of the event was the cutting of the anniversary cake by Reverend Father Emeka Eze, surrounded by fellow priests, elders, loved ones, and the jubilant children.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Father Eze explained the inspiration behind celebrating the birthday with the children.
Since I became a priest, I've always loved to be with children, praying with them. And many times I organize prayer section with them and go out, go to desert and pray with them. So I remember when I was growing, my mom used to teach me how to pray. And from getting closer together with them, I try to teach them what they're supposed to know, so that as they grow up, they will have fear of God. So I feel that they are angels on earth. So that's why I like staying with them, because they are free-minded. They don't think evil, because they are still young. So remember what our Lord Jesus Christ said in the scriptures: do not chase them away, that the kingdom of God belongs to such children like this. So that's why I embrace them all the time. I like them to be around me all the time.
Looking back, the clergyman said that there were paths he wished he had taken differently and lessons he wished he had learned much earlier.
So I would have preferred, if I'm given opportunity to go back as a child, coming up again, I will be able to amend my ways. Those places I felt I didn't do well. Okay? Like some children now, sit down, the person wouldn't sit down. When I was in the primary school, my brother used to tell me, sit down and read. I said, I'll throw away my school bag. At the end of the day, when I realized, I came back to my senses. And that's why, even at the village, I go to see the children, talk to them, so that they will learn how to start early to prepare for their life, for their future. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Those at the event, including fellow priests, shared heartfelt stories and expressed their deep appreciation for the impact the celebrant has had on their lives.
So we thank God for him. He has been a good priest. Loving children is part of his joy.
He's a jolly, young, humble, and unassuming young priest. He's a very good priest of God in the Diocese of Tinubu. Mention his name. We know him as Melech. Melech means king from the Hebrew language. And so his name epitomizes humility and his disposition towards others is simply top-notch.
It's our prayer that today that he's celebrating his birthday, that God will continually bless him for us, grant him good health of mind and body, and then the strength to continue to walk in his vineyard. Yes, we're very happy and we say bravo to him. Happy birthday and many, many more years.
This man is a man that you can always trust. You can always emulate. He's loving, caring. He never sees anybody suffering and leaves him alone. Our problem is always his problem.
Happy about Father Emeka birthday. Children love him so much because of his good reverend.
The celebration at St. Joseph Catholic Church was not just a commemoration of Father Emeka's life, but also a reflection of the strong bond within the church community.
U.S. President Donald Trump established the Memphis Safe Task Force, modeled after the recent federal law enforcement surge in the nation's capital, as part of a broader initiative he says is needed to combat urban violence. He said he plans to take a similar action in Chicago next. The initiative will deploy a broad coalition of federal agencies, including the FBI, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the Department of Homeland Security, and U.S. Marshals, alongside the National Guard and local law enforcement. Attorney General Pam Bondi will lead the operation, Trump said. Trump's decision to deploy federal law enforcement and National Guard troops to Washington and Memphis has drawn sharp criticism from Democratic leaders and civil rights advocates who say the move is more political theater than public safety strategy. Trump and Republican leaders are aggressively positioning crime as a centerpiece of their political strategy, aiming to galvanize voters around a message of law and order. With federal deployments to Memphis and Washington, D.C., and promises of expanded crackdowns in cities like Chicago, the administration is casting violent crime as a national emergency and attempting to frame Democrats as weak on public safety. Ben & Jerry's co-founder, Jerry Greenfield, whose name helped shape the popular ice cream brand, has quit the company as its rift with parent Unilever deepened over its stance on the Gaza conflict. In an open letter addressing the Ben & Jerry's community that was shared by his partner, Ben Cohen, on social media platform X on Tuesday, Greenfield said that the Vermont-based company has lost its independence since Unilever curtailed its social activism. Unilever and Ben & Jerry's have clashed since 2021 when the chubby hobby maker said it will stop sales in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. The brand has since sued its parent over alleged efforts to silence it and described the Gaza conflict as genocide, a rare stance for a major U.S. company. Greenfield said he could no longer in good conscience continue working for a company that has been silenced by Unilever despite a merger agreement meant to safeguard the brand's social mission. Colombian President Gustavo Petro condemned the U.S. decision to decertify Colombia's anti-drug efforts on Monday, calling it a politically motivated and unjust after years of record cocaine seizures and lab dismantlements. Petro, in a national address, said the U.S. move ignored the sacrifices of Colombian police, soldiers, and civilians who have died fighting drug trafficking. He accused U.S. officials of prioritizing ideology over results and warned that the real solution lies in reducing American drug consumption. The U.S. State Department announced that Colombia, along with Afghanistan, Bolivia, Burma, and Venezuela, had failed demonstrably to meet counter-narcotics obligations. U.S. President Donald Trump's statement cited surging cocoa cultivation and cocaine production under Petro's administration. Petro also criticized recent U.S. military actions, including the destruction of a boat carrying 3 people in international waters, calling it murder. He urged the U.S. to focus on domestic reforms to curb fentanyl deaths, which claim 100,000 American lives annually. Colombia's decertification will affect U.S. funding, with Republican lawmakers already pushing for cuts to non-military aid. The country has been a key U.S. ally in the drug war, but relations have strained under Petro's leftist government. Christian B., the German man who remains a suspect in the 2007 disappearance of British girl Madeleine McCann in Portugal, has been released from prison on Wednesday after serving a sentence on other charges, German police said. German prosecutors first named Christian B. a suspect in 2020, when he was already serving the sentence for raping a 72-year-old woman in the part of Portugal's Algarve region where McCann went missing. German magazine said his passport had been cancelled. He will be electronically tagged, must declare a place of residence, and cannot leave without permission. Christian B's lawyer denies any connection with the McCann case. Christian B has convictions for child abuse and drug trafficking, in addition to the rape of the woman who has since died. Police in Britain, Germany, and Portugal have identified Christian B as their main suspect, have long sought evidence to link him conclusively to the case. Portuguese and German police spent 4 days digging for evidence in Algarve in June. McCann, then aged 3, disappeared from her bedroom in a holiday resort as her parents dined meters away. Christian B., 49, lived in the Algarve between 1995 and 2007, where, according to court documents, he burgled hotels and holiday flats. McCann's parents continue to campaign for their daughter, who would now be 22, to be found and issue a statement each year on the anniversary of her disappearance. The Philippines on Wednesday accused China's Coast Guard of carrying out unlawful behavior a day after it fired water cannons at Philippine vessels near the disputed Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. Tuesday's encounter involved more than 10 Philippine ships, said Gan Yu, a spokesperson for China's Coast Guard, accusing the vessels of having illegally invaded China's territorial waters of the Scarborough Shoal from different directions. In a statement, the Philippine Coast Guard said it was engaged in a mission to resupply more than 35 Philippine fishing boats at the shoal, where they encountered aggressive actions by 9 Chinese vessels.
It's common sense. They were firing water cannons both from behind and from the front, and they were maneuvering around the vessel. It was inevitable that the vessels would hit each other. But again, it was not intentional. It was actually there. China's lies once again hiding their unlawful and bullying activities in Bajo de Masinloc, Scarborough Shoal. What really happened here is that the 2 China Coast Guard vessels that were harassing Datu Piang, Filipino fisheries vessel, conducted dangerous maneuvers, which they released on social media showing that we were the ones who hit. But even if they claim that, they were still firing water cannons onto the bridge of the BFAR, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, vessel. Coercing, threatening, carrying out unlawful behavior that is pretty much normal for the Chinese government.
The latest confrontation comes a week after China approved plans to turn the shoal into a national nature reserve, a move that defense analysts have said will test Manila's response over the 150 square kilometers triangular chain of reefs and rocks. China claims almost the entire South China Sea, overlapping the exclusive economic zones of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. Unresolved disputes have festered for years over ownership of various islands and features. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled that China's sweeping claims in the region were not supported by international law, a decision that Beijing rejects. The leader of South Korea's Unification Church, Han Hak-ja, appeared for questioning by prosecutors on Wednesday over alleged involvement in bribing the wife of ousted President Yoon Suk-yeol as part of a criminal probe into the former first couple. Han declined to answer questions from reporters about the allegations as she arrived at the office of the special prosecutor. Han, who is called True Mother by followers, is the widow of Unification Church founder Moon Sung-myung, who died in 2012. A special prosecutor has indicted former First Lady Kim Kyun-hee for bribery and other charges in a widening probe into several charges of wrongdoing by her before and during Yoon's presidency. Kim has been imprisoned as part of the probe. Yoon, who is also in detention, is on trial over insurrection charges leveled against him by a separate special prosecutor related to his botched bid to declare martial law in December last year. El Salvador's Navy has seized 1.4 tons of drugs floating in the Pacific Ocean in the south of the Central American country, according to a report released on Tuesday. Defense Minister Vice Admiral Rene Marino said the recovery suggests traffickers were tipped off about naval operations and abandoned the shipment to escape arrest. According to authorities, the haul was found about 900 nautical miles southwest of El Condotilo Island last week. Attorney General Rodolfo Delgado said the seizure is part of ongoing investigations into international drug networks.
We've prevented 1.4 tons from reaching their final destination and causing harm to society, in this case, the United States. This latest seizure adds to previous ones, a total of 21.06 tons of drugs intercepted at sea.
This drug was seized as part of ongoing investigations into transnational trafficking networks that threaten health, peace, and security of the region. Each seizure financially hits the criminals profiting from drug trafficking. Every dose confiscated is a direct blow to their income, operations, and ability to corrupt states.
The Salvadoran government said the drugs, valued at around $35 million, bring the total seized in 2025 to over 21 tons at sea. Since President Nayib Bukele took office, authorities have confiscated more than 71 tons of drugs. And that's the news this hour. I am Uchenna Chimdi Olwoha. Thanks for watching.